Yeah, you seem to forget actually how fast you're going and how brainless you are at times, and I think just to come back now after a layoff makes you aware of how dangerous the sport actually is.
Gavin Nimmo outpaced Jeremy Davies by half a minute on Section 1. Errol Dalton came in third, with the top 6 completed by Kevin Tebbett, Chris Dodd and Willie Fenter. On the car side, Klaus Degener and Derek Pinoy were 2 minutes ahead of Bucks Carolyn and Kenny Skolthammer, with veteran Harry Roscoe having a good run to come in third. It wouldn't be off-road racing without the traditional early morning start, which was, as usual, accompanied by cold weather. A monster bell machine got the second section off to a flying start, with Klaus Degener and Derek Pinoy leading away the more conventional off-road races. Degener and Pinoy were followed by Bucks Carolyn and Kenny Skolthammer, with Harry Roscoe hot on their heels. For Richard Schilling, a few problems on Section 1 in the Motortech Raceco meant he and navigator Robert Walk would have to start at the back of the field.
Yeah, it's a bit of a problem yesterday. We stalled the car and Vic stopped and was kind enough to give me a tow start, but it was only about a kilometre from the end. So instead of wasting time and getting out of the car and cutting the rope, we actually raced together with the rope between us. And at the finish, it was thought that in fact I hadn't crossed the line under the own power of my motor car, and there is a rule that you have to do that. So the interpretation was I'd been towed, for which a penalty was imposed. I have discussed it with the organisers and they now understand that in fact I drove under my own power. I'm starting in the mass start half an hour behind Klaus today, but in fact I will have no penalty. So if I get the gap down to 29 minutes 30 seconds, I'll be in the lead by 30 seconds. It's going to be quite exciting today.
Although using a smaller capacity Porsche engine than their normal race unit, Bucks Carolyn and Kenny Skolthammer were quickly into the lead, followed by Natal driver Roger Westermeyer in the Eskimo refrigeration Chenoweth, who was using local knowledge to good effect to pressurize Carolyn. Harry Roscoe in the Protea Card Raceco was maintaining a consistently fast pace to keep in touch with the leaders. Behind Roscoe, the ever-aggressive Klaus Degener was charging to make up for lost time after running into gearbox problems in the Duckham's Chenoweth. Arpi Reinecker and Lucas Dreyer had moved up a couple of places in the BP Ford Courier and were starting to look threatening. Matters were also starting to look threatening for top rookie Greg Wiebel and Warren Claassen, who were having gearbox problems, but they eventually led to early retirement. The Ant Alex Dairy Toyota, in the hands of Alex Bowles and Corey Durant, was also well placed in the early stages. Behind them, there was plenty of drama, with a fired-up Richard Schilling and Robert Walk in the Motortech Raceco, carving their way through the field in a desperate bid to overcome having to start at the back of the field. Bert and Mark Greef were at the head of the Class 10 field in the Chenoweth. Unlike Schilling and Walk, they were taking no chances and were maintaining a steady pace. Rally stars Cassie Coetzee and Wiley Harrington were leading the Class 5 battle in the dealer team Toyota Hilux and were starting to settle into a good rhythm. For Class 5 championship leaders Alfred van Vuren and Piet Pelser, a proud record was about to end. Engine problems were to force them into retirement for the first time since the Mabato Sun 500 in 1988. Steve Parker and VZ von Sale had matters under control in Class 7, with Parker offering assistance to Wilfried Westlau and Dagmar Blankner, who ran into gearbox problems. Theo Coetzee and Ian Wedderburn also went past the stricken former South African champions. The charge was continuing where Richard Schilling and Robert Walk were concerned. Although running down the field, they had moved into the lead on total race time and had their sights set firmly on catching up with Bucks Carolyn and Kenny Skolthammer and the rest of the front runners. Class 9 leader Roger Westermeyer was having a great run, and Carolyn could not afford to make any mistakes. Harry Roscoe was always up amongst the leaders and was second in Class 9. Roscoe was having a trouble-free run in the Protea Card Raceco, which was in stark contrast to Klaus Degener and Derek Pinoy in the Ducklands Chenoweth, who lost plenty of time when they took the wrong route and strayed 40 kilometres off course. All this was added to continual gearbox problems for the Toyota 1000 Desert Race winners. Some budding local musicians livened up matters for spectators who were on hand at a water pan to watch the fun. R.P. Reinecker and Lucas Dreyer were taking it cautiously in the BP Ford after a strong showing that saw them up with the leaders, but there was plenty of drama still to come for the former South African champions. There was close racing throughout the field, but the abundant water called for a cautious approach. Water in the electrics or in the motor tends to cause severe mechanical problems, which are costly. In keeping with their spectacular charge through the field, race leaders Richard Schilling and Robert Walk were a little more aggressive than most of the other competitors. There was plenty of encouragement for competitors along the route and the occasional problem for Schilling and Walk. A kilometre down the road, a minor get-together with the Andy Gray Steve Atkins Sandmaster caught their attention for a few moments, but did not prove to be a major problem. The consistent Harry Roscoe was still plugging along in the top 5, but Class 5 leaders Alex Bowles and Corey Durant ran into problems when they hit a deep rut in the road, and their Toyota was suddenly reduced to 3 serviceable wheels. On the bike side, Errol Dalton on the Bird Paradise Kawasaki made most of the early running. There were times when the conditions were ultra tricky, with the riders having to exercise a degree of caution. Jeremy Davies on the Truck Africa KTM was coping well after his long layoff, but was eventually forced into retirement with mechanical problems. Kevin Tebbett on the Sun City Honda was again going consistently, but slipped back from 3rd to 5th overall at the finish. There was an impressive display from Yamaha rider Willie Fenter. He hardly put a foot wrong in tricky conditions to make sure of 3rd place overall. There was drama where Gavin Nimmo was concerned. The Yamaha rider took a heavy fall early on and broke his collarbone. After being patched up at a control point, he carried on to gradually work his way through the field. Behind him, Chris Dodd was also going well in the top 6. Early pace setters Mike Egan and Bruce Sanderson's chances of a top 5 finish in the Chenoweth took a knock when they lost time after water was sucked into the engine. They held on to finish 6th, but R.P. Reinecker and Lucas Dreyer were headed for disqualification in the BP Ford after missing a sequence marshal point near the finish. Bucks Carolyn and Kenny Skolthammer had dropped down to third on the road in the Porsche Raceco and were having a trouble-free run. But the story of the event was the charge by Richard Schilling and Robert Walk, who on time elapsed had victory in their pockets. A gutsy display took Gavin Nimmo to victory in the bike section. But the run to the finish point in the car category was a straight fight between Carolyn and Skolthammer and Schilling and Walk. A final section of water almost caught out Schilling and Walk. A little judicious backtracking from Schilling and Walk ensured that Carolyn and Skolthammer would cross the line first. But on elapsed time, a brilliant performance by Schilling and Walk saw them win by 26 minutes with a new Motortech Raceco more than demonstrating its potential. Inevitably, Schilling was a delighted winner.
Had to overtake a lot of people, and the mud patches have been chewed up by the time we got there, so we were actually battling quite a bit to get through. But we did it, and that's what counts.
A great victory for Richard Schilling and Robert Walk ahead of Bucks Carolyn and Kenny Skolthammer, with the commercial vehicle honours going to Cassie Coetzee and Wiley Harrington in the Toyota.
Yeah, I broke my collarbone this morning. I actually missed the first fuel stop, and I had a big ender and landed up going in the wrong direction, and I came across Errol, and he told me no, I'd missed the fuel stop, and I thought, no, that's it, I'm not going to ride any further. Went to put fuel in, and I was going to ride to the service point and then give up, and I got there and everybody had painkillers and all the rest, and they bandaged me up, and I got going again.
Yep, they certainly make bikers tough, with Gavin Nimmo shrugging off a broken collarbone to come in ahead of Errol Dalton, with Chris Dodd winning the 200 class. The Bell Trans Tongaland Challenge, fourth round of the Total GTE Off-Road Championship,